We'll keep asking
So
you
I'm
something.
AdityaSood. I'm a fifth-year PhD student at Stanford in the MaterialScience and Engineering department. What other questions do you want to ask?
So, tell us about your undergrad. Where did you study?
So I went to undergrad at IIT Kanpur. I did a BTech in Materials Engineering, and so I graduated 2011 and then came here for an MS and PhD. So the program I'm in basically gives you a master's along the way. So I got a master's 2 years ago, and I'll probably be graduating with my PhD sometime next year, 2017,
In material sciences.
in material sciences. But my research is actually in mechanical engineering, but I'll be graduating in material science.
So, tell us what particular area you're researching in.
So my research is on understanding fundamentals of heat transfer at small scales. So for example, in silicon transistors, understanding how heat is produced and how that heat can be dissipated efficiently. So it's kind of a very applied physicsy kind of discipline. So it's kind of at the intersection of applied physics and material science and mechanical engineering, and sometimes electrical engineering because we study devices.
I see. So, which all universities did you apply to for your master's and PhD?
So I applied to, I don't remember now. There's quite a few, but the top ones, I guess. So some on the West Coast. I think on the East Coast was MIT and Harvard, and I think there was Northwestern in Chicago, UIUC in Urbana-Champaign, and on the West Coast was I think Caltech and Stanford and Berkeley. That was probably what I applied to.
Okay, so when you got admitted to the master's program, did you also get admitted to PhD or you applied later?
Yeah, so the way it works in material science is actually very department specific. So at Stanford in material science specifically, you can get admitted directly to a combined MS PhD program, in which case you don't have to, apply first to the master's program and then convert to the PhD program. Unlike in some departments like mechanical engineering here, where you can only apply to a master's program straight away after undergrad, and then you have to transition to the PhD later on. So in my case, I applied directly to the MS plus PhD program. And then you kind of get the master's along the way because the coursework you do for your PhD is essentially the master's.
I see. That's very good. So, when you came here straight away, you had funding and scholarship as well?
In my case, yes. In fact, that's true for most PhD programs.
So, even in your master's, you had a scholarship?
So that's the thing, is my master's wasn't a separate program.
So, you applied for the dual degree program?
You can call it a dual degree program in the sense that it's actually a PhD program, but you get a master's along the way.
Ah, okay.
So it's not really called a dual degree, but you can think of it that way.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And also, most of the students in your class had funding?
So all of the PhD students who come in to most universities here, if you're coming for the PhD program, not the master's program, odds are that you will have funding either through a research assistantship or through a teaching assistantship.
So that's typically between like $1,500 to $1,000 a month?
Honestly, I'm not very good with the numbers, but it's usually, it depends very highly on which area you live in. Like on the West Coast, they usually pay you more than other parts of the US where living expenses are cheaper. So it scales with that, and it's highly variable. But it's more than enough to cover living expenses, and it's a comfortable stipend.
I see.
Yeah.
So, what has been your relationship with your advisors and everything?
Excellent, actually. So my advisor is in the mechanical engineering department, even though I'm material science. So that's a very common thing here. It's a lot of the research in science and engineering is highly interdisciplinary. So you can be working in one department, but actually be stationed in another department. So my research is kind of at the intersection of a lot of different fields. My advisor is great. He's pretty hands off, and he's an expert in his field. So we do some pretty interesting research and get along very well. So I've had a really satisfying experience working.
Did you have to write your GRE?
Yeah.
So. So that must have been many years ago. So.
Yeah, that was in 2010, I guess, or 2011.
So, do you have any advice for future applicants who are applying to material science programs?
I think it's the same advice as everywhere else. I think especially for a place that's considered to be like top, like as in Stanford, I think probably in the application for a PhD, the most important thing is letters of recommendation. The GRE score, honestly, in my experience, is not that critical. Places like Stanford and MIT and Princeton, I think it's the letters of recommendation and research experience, and just writing a decent statement of purpose. I think those are the probably, and of course your GPA when you graduate from undergrad. I think
And,
those are probably the 3 or 4 most important things.
What about the job prospects, internships? Where do most people get jobs?
It's actually highly subjective, so I wouldn't be able to comment because it even within the same university, it can change.
Did you do any
drastically.
internships anywhere?
I didn't. I chose not to. I mean, there's a lot of possibility to do internships when you're in the PhD program here. But again, it's highly subjective because it depends on your advisor and your department. So I couldn't really comment specifically on that. But there are a lot of opportunities if one looks.
So you plan to be in industry or academia after this?
I would like to eventually end up in academia.
Wish you best of luck and thank you for your video.
Thank you. Yeah. Take care. All the best. Yeah. Thank you.